Today, I'm going to share with you how to bring the natural beauty of the outdoors in without spending a fortune. Getting our inspiration from high-end luxury home stores like Pottery Barn, Crate and Barrel, and McGee & Co., but creating those looks for so much less. To get started with the olive tree, which is my absolute favorite of this video, I'm going to be using plaster of Paris. I have a little garbage pail here that I no longer need in the house, and I've got a pitcher of water, and I've got some rocks because I want to add a little bit of extra weight to the bottom of the pot. So the first thing I need to do is mix up the water and the plaster of Paris, and that's going to happen right inside the bucket. The water goes in first, and then I'm putting this whole bag of plaster of Paris in here. And I did find that I added a little too much water. This was still a little thin. Even though it would set up just as firmly as the other, I wanted to have a little bit of extra of the powder in there. So I ended up running downstairs and grabbing another bag that I have and adding a little bit more just to give it more of, I want to say, a milkshake texture, right? Or a smoothie, something that's a little thick but is still pourable. A couple of weeks ago, we were at our cottage, which interestingly enough has less snow than we do here at home. So I was able to find myself a really beautiful tree branch that would work perfectly for the olive tree. And I'll show you exactly what it looks like in just a couple of minutes. What I'm doing here is adding some wood pieces on either side, and I'm also going to use some at the top. And then I'm going to put some weights on there just to hold that branch in place until the plaster of Paris has an opportunity to firm up. It only took a couple of hours for this to actually get completely solid, so it does work a lot quicker than concrete. I got some artificial olive stems from Temu, and I'll have the link to that particular product down in my description box. For 3 packets of 5 stems each, it was $30. So all I'm going to be doing is using some hot glue and adding the stems to the original stems of this branch. Now it's really, really tall, so I really wasn't able to get a shot of it plain so you could really see how big it is, but towards the end, you're going to see it, and it is absolutely gorgeous. I had to get up on a step stool to do some of the leaves up top. Take a look at how pretty these olive stems are. And this is one branch. So it's one branch that splits into 2 and then splits into 2 more. So you actually have 4 stems per branch. For the majority of the stems, I used 2 at a time, like you see me using here. But if it was too heavy for the original stem, like this one will be, I end up taking it off and then trimming it down to just 1 stem. So it really depends on how full you want your tree to look. I was going for more of a sparse look, and these are some of the inspiration looks that I'm going for. Once I took off the second branch on this stem and re-glued it back to the original branch on the tree, it stood up really well. Now, you can see a little bit of the hot glue, but to be honest, it doesn't bother me. You're not ever going to be looking at it so close that you would notice that. But if that's something that bothers you, then you can definitely take a paintbrush and maybe paint some of it either green or brown to match the original branches. For me, I didn't want to take that extra step, although you could do that. Here's a better look at all of the different branches I have. There's some thicker ones, some thinner ones. They're going in different directions. It was just the perfect branch, and I was so excited when I found it. Here's a few things to remember if you're going to decide to create a tree like this. Don't worry about getting a branch that is perfect. you're not going to find anything perfect. And if you create something that is perfect, it's really not going to look natural and rustic like you had just brought it in from outdoors. Next, make sure you're using a more of a low temp glue gun. I found with the 60-watt on this glue gun, I was able to make the glue stay where I put it. It didn't leak, it didn't drip because it was too hot and liquidy, and it gave me a really good amount of working time anyway. Thirdly, if you've got a longer stem like this one here, glue your branch onto the whole part of the stem. Don't just go to the edge or maybe just a couple of inches at the tip, especially if you're using a heavier branch like this one is one of the double ones. So I made sure that it had enough support so it wouldn't fall down. And lastly, the most important thing is have fun. Just stick these branches on wherever you feel they fit and then enjoy your tree. I decided to use a basket for the pot of my olive tree, and this is my inspiration. It is a Pottery Barn basket worth over $200. I've had this basket for probably about 5 years. I've been using it in my bedroom as a little laundry basket for all of my delicates and washables that I don't want anybody else to touch. So I decided to change its purpose, and I'm using some gray chalk paint. I'm going to do a little bit of a misting over the basket, and then I'm going to just give it a wash with the gray paint. I want some of that texture to show through. I want some of the brown still to show through, but I think it just gave it just an updated look, a more modern look, and I love how it turned out. Once the basket dried, I put it in. Once the basket dried, I put my olive tree inside of it, and I'm simply going to take some burlap and just fluff it up and make it fill in the space on top. You could add some Spanish moss if you wanted to, but this basket is so large, I just didn't want to waste all of that moss right here. And to be honest, moss makes a huge mess. So I just thought this would be just more of a natural look too. I am in love with how my olive tree turned out. It is about 8 feet tall and it's probably about 3 to 4 feet wide. I love how sparse it is. I love the basket underneath. It's perfect. Last year, I had a faux rose tree, which was a topiary, and I created a eucalyptus tree out of that. And I will link that in the description box below for you. But I didn't have a really nice planter for it because I brought it inside for the winter. This was my inspiration. This pot was just so nice, and it was just nice and straight down. And this, what I picked up at the thrift store, is another find that I've had in my home probably again for about 4 or 5 years. And it was doing its purpose in the bathroom, holding like, the different cleaning supplies and that. But I decided to now repurpose this one and make it the pot for my eucalyptus tree. What I'm doing here is just cutting down pieces of pool noodle that I can wedge into the bottom of this pot. I don't want to create anything permanent in here, because down the road, if I want to change out the pot or I want to change out the tree, it'll be super easy to do. So I'm just wedging the pool noodle pieces right into the bottom. And then what I'm going to do is take my bread knife here and do an X pattern in the center of the pool noodle. And that is where I'm going to be able to take my tree, as you see here, and push it down into the center. Now, I just wanted to do that here to make sure that this bottom pool noodle would be able to be poked through, and then I'm going to be doing another layer. I'm going to repeat the X pattern that I did on the bottom pool noodle, and with the bread knife I'm going to push it all the way down so it goes through that first pool noodle again. And now it's just a matter of taking the tree and pushing it down into that X spot till it reaches the very bottom of the pot. I'm going to continue adding bits of pool noodle until the whole pot is filled up, and that will just also help this tree be a lot more sturdy. I decided to break out the Spanish moss for this one, and I'm just going to mound it in and push it down in between all of the little pool noodle pieces so it will stay in place without any hot glue. This is just another easy way to take a plant or tree that you already have and make it a little bit more high end using a different type of pot. When I saw this urn on McGee & Co., regular $128 and on sale for $90, I knew I'd be able to find something at the thrift store that was similar. This is what I found at the thrift store. It's not exactly the same. The handles are a little bit larger than the inspiration, but I just love the color and the texture and how it just looks really rustic. So I decided just to grab some of these little blueberry stems from the Dollar Tree, and it looks beautiful on the washstand in my guest room. This last project isn't really a dupe, although I did find a cute little inspiration piece online for about $60. I got this for $5 at the thrift store. It's resin, but it does look like old stone or concrete. So I'm going to recreate this little inspiration piece using some baby's breath and some little greenery picks and some reindeer moss. And this is how it turned out. Just remember, luxury home decor doesn't have to be expensive. With a little TLC, some elbow grease, a little paint here and there, you can definitely create a home that looks high-end but is within your budget. Thank you so much for spending some of your time with me today. I truly appreciate each and every one of you. See you in the next one.